few different topics as usual, and then see where it leads us. So I think being a man, well, doing my own thing, I guess so. But like a lot of men, you just get on with it really. Survival, day-to-day stuff is what you just focus on. Focus on positive things, or things that basically are progressive to you. It doesn't have to be progressive to anybody else. You know, if that's collecting stamps, good on you, or whatever. You know, whatever floats your boat really. And I mean, these tough times, notice certain changes. Like I've had a few clients recently die. I had another client that died yesterday. So I've had 2 in 5 days. A few months ago I had a colleague die. I wasn't close to him, but that was a heart attack. I think it's because they're not going to hospital having health checkups, and so they're not nipping these things in the bud. Or they look at the mortality of the person and think, well, that might have changed them figures. You know, they're not going to operate or do things with certain conditions because the chance of survival is low. And then there may be also resources, spending certain resources doing things might be not favourable to the NHS or National Health Service we got in the UK. But however, it might be the same for different countries. You know, how many resources have you got? The more you can do at home, the better. The more you can treat yourself, the better. The more you can deal with your own drug side of things, the better. It's a shame that the rules on sort of drugs, even things like ones with psychoactive things, you know, things like cannabis and so on, that people who are adults, if they're a certain age, can't buy them. You know, if they're sort of above the age of 21 and they use it in a private environment. So basically the rule is do no harm to others. So you can't buy something to use for somebody else unless that person's got diminished capacity and you've got that capacity. So, you know, like say for instance your parents got Parkinson's disease, they're not going to go buy something like that. If they can buy things over the counter, you know, because things like when people have got tremors and so on with things like cannabis, they go away. And there's a lot of other drugs that potentially, I mean, it could be harmful if you just sort of just chuck them in you and hope for the best, because there's a chance of allergic reaction, but that's just common sense. You take the smallest amount of something and then you expose a part of your body and then you see what your responses are based on that. You know, if you put a little tip or bit on your tongue, I mean, it could be someone severely allergic and have an anaphylactic shocker from it. You know, that's a possibility, but then it's a possibility in all foods. All foods contain chemicals. That would take the pressure off the NHS if people could privately buy their own stuff, and users of these products could give their feedback, and then people could put like a star rating, is this effective or not. And then also the risk of fatalities, because at the moment you've got vaccines that kill people or basically change their health, and that's something else I wanted to mention about. My colleagues have taken this stuff to do with the COVID and had some side effects that have been quite strong, and you could probably see how some of the elderly and more vulnerable could have these side effects like pains, headaches, nausea, fatigue, tiredness. Man, you've got to look both ways. All crumbs coming my way, I think. He did. He took a big turn in. He's done a U-turn. That's just nuts. It's a bastard U-turn. But there could be a system set up. I know you're responsible adults. You know, they put on all their details. They're not dealing outwardly and using. And it also means you can get hold of drugs that maybe they're hardest to come by, or buy them directly from, you know, the companies that provide them. That could be painkillers, that could be other things. The risk of those people getting addicted as well would have to be looked at. But then how's that any different from the tobacco industry or anything else? They've probably got advice of what you should have, the levels. If you're starting to lose dependency, are you prone to dependency or addiction? I mean, if you've got addictive personality, like taking lots of things and doing things at extreme, you have to take a rain check and say, well, if I start getting into this or that, because I've got a bit of chronic pain, or I'm recovering, say, from a car accident, or whatever the reasons are, And, you know, that could be an issue. I mean, you can take your own destiny in your own hands. You could grow certain plants that have these certain benefits, but you're on your own completely learning about them. And you're going to get a mixed bag. You'll either get people that are open-minded to it, or people who already have very sort of conservative rules, or very sort of state-led views, and say, oh, we're evil, we can't do that. But if you're actually growing your own, you're not actually supporting a crime network. But then again, some of these criminal networks want to evolve beyond petty stuff and just actually have a business interest. Just gonna go on, that's fine. Yeah. It's a problem. People are sometimes like lemmings, they just don't want to do. So that's, and then the other impact I mentioned about is stress on the NHS and losing people, because even though that COVID might be not the main cause of death, maybe a reduced or poorer service might be one of the things, and the knock-on effect. I mean, for me, it's going to place me £200 down a month, losing two clients that I'd see on a regular basis, which is probably about, it's about 5 hours. It's about 5 hours a week, so I'm sort of with there, something like that. And so, but I mean, I can, you make up with other clients, but then also it's dealing with the grief of losing two people. We all mourn things differently, so I've just got to, like I mentioned in another video, dealing with things like that. But it might just creep up on you, like feel like, you know, you remember something about a person, you think, oh, that's great. I mean, the privilege to be sometimes a part of someone's life at the end of it, because they get to share some of their experience and tell you about things. And then you can take that memory and say, yeah, his parents were all wonderful, you know, great musicians, you know, these sorts of things that might come up in the future. You might realise this knowledge pool come from somewhere else, but not realise it's actually because of the experience you had with an older client. And as for me, I just focus on the personal development. I've got a few people in Russia I write to. I prefer Russian women, because the problem with the Ukrainians, I was finding they're just, because of the poverty in the area, you're more likely to get someone who's just after money or something, and you know, that's that. I'd rather date people or be in some sort of relation with people who've actually got jobs, got everything I've got in their own world, their own property. They're not looking for anything. They could be playing mind games, and there might be an end game that they're playing that I'm not aware of. But I'd rather not worry about that. It's survival really, it's just getting by. You don't need them, but at least I've got some female company in these tough times. Anyway, Pixie sign off, have a great one, and speak to you soon. Bye.